you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And shortly, we will be joined by the best coach to ever coach in the game of hockey. And one of the best coaches, I would argue, in pro sports ever, one William Scott Bowman, join us here on the Eye Test. Pierre, I get excited every time we have Scotty on. I really do, because I just learn something new every time we speak to him, whether it's here on the air or whether it's through text or phone. I always learn something new.
You know, it's really important, because if you keep your ears open, you can learn a lot from him. You know, I'm surprised more coaches that are established in the league now don't call him more often. You know, Mike Babcock used to have constant flow of communication with him. I'm not going to mention some of the other coaches because it hasn't been as documented, but back in the day, more guys would call him. I don't think he hears from as many anymore, which is unfortunate. There are a couple that do, though, but he's amazing. He's just over the top great. He really is.
Yeah, he's something else. And we're honored to be able to have him on and be able to just say, hey, Scotty, you want to join us today? And he gets right back to you and says yes. Or if he can, he'll let us know why, and he'll make it happen another time. And so we're looking forward to that conversation very shortly here on the Eye Test. Pierre, we're going to surely get into a lot of the Montreal Canadiens and their game, obviously, against the Carolina Hurricanes, where they need a point to clinch. But let's look back at last night, and let's start with the team they are competing for in that final wild card spot. And that's the Columbus Blue Jackets, who went into Philly and took care of business and got the 2 points there. Look, I know that we have a huge Montreal following, but I think any of those Montreal fans right now could admit that, look, if for some reason the Canadiens are unable to get the job done, and it is the Columbus Blue Jackets that do make the playoffs, after everything that Blue Jackets team went through, I think that our fine followers from Montreal have a heart and would show a ton of empathy for what that means for that team and what a story it is.
You know, it's a great story. Obviously, it's something that Donnie Waddell and Dean Evison have been very familiar with. The players there, you know, you look at it, and whether it's Boone Jenner, who missed the start of the season, you know, Sean Monahan, who was such good friends with Johnny Gaudreau, chose to go to Columbus because of his relationship with Johnny Gaudreau. You look at the play of Zach Werenski this year, has to be one of the leading candidates for the Norris Trophy. He's at least in the top three. There's so many good stories coming out of Columbus, and obviously we still think of the Gaudreau family all the time. But, you know, right now, Montreal fans aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about getting the job done tonight. There are four pathways. I told Jimmy this today. There are four pathways for Montreal to get in. Win your game, get to overtime. That's two of them. Win in overtime, and hope, you know, tomorrow night, if you don't do those three, hope tomorrow that the Islanders can go into Columbus and win. So they have four pathways. You know, I'd rather be in Montreal shoes than Columbus shoes right now. I would rather be in Montreal's. And let's be honest, you can't worry about who the opposition plays. Carolina's choosing to rest players. I know there's some people that are upset about it. You know what? You know why they're resting players? Because they played themselves in a position to allow themselves to rest players. So there's a reason why it's an 82-game schedule. And the sooner you get clinched into the playoffs, the sooner you can start to manage your lineup and create these opportunities for your team.
Well, I mean, look at Dallas, Pierre. You know, they've been resting guys, and they're playing at some of the more of their big guns tonight, but they flat out said, I mean, the coach, Pete DeBoer, flat out said, we are focused on the intricacies of our game right now, the little nuances, and getting finely polished for the playoffs, as opposed to W's and L's. You know, I mean, that's what it is. And I'm not going to lie to you. He was great. I loved how honest he was. And are we going to rest guys? Yeah. But so, yeah, you're exactly right. I don't know why I wouldn't be mad at a team for doing that right now. And I get maybe that the Columbus fans are like, what the heck? They get to play a B team, so to speak. Hey, none of these guys are B team. If you're playing the NHL, you're not a B teamer. You're an NHLer. And so that's what I'd say to that.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. You know, Pete DeBoer's got other issues you got to worry about. You got to play Colorado number one. That's not going to be easy. That's going to be really difficult. The good news for them is they have home ice. That's the good news for them in that series. The bad news is I don't think Miro Heiskanen's playing. No. And if he doesn't play, that's a big problem. And this is where people don't understand what they did in Colorado is amazing. You look at, they had Brock Nelson, they had Charlie Coyle, they had Jack Drury. So now look at their center ice: McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle, Drury. Okay. I get it. The other team likes I get. Look at, if I'm Dallas, I like Matt Duchene. I like Rope Hintz. I like Wyatt Johnston. They're good players. They're really good players. But in the sum of the whole thing, they're not as good as Colorado's centermen. They're not. They're not.
And I posted some early instant predictions last night. I know you're not into predictions, but the reason I did choose the Avs in this series, and we'll get into that more in the next couple of days, but the sole reason, exactly what Pierre McGuire just said here on our show, is that they're just too strong up the middle. I mean, and they may arguably be the strongest in not just the West. I would argue in the whole playoffs of all the teams that are in
the tape around the league. You tell me what center ice positions 4 deep like they are.
Yeah.
Like, go do it. I do it. I do this exercise every day. Like, I like the Tampa players, but do I think Tampa's deeper than them at center 1 through 4? I don't. Florida, we like Florida. We both do. That's going to be an amazing series. It's not going 5 games this year. That thing's going to go long. But do they have the center ice play that Colorado has? They don't. Toronto, Tavares and Matthews are great. Domi's really good. But are they better than what Colorado has? I don't think so. Winnipeg is outstanding. Scheifele's elite. Adam Lowry's elite. But then the other two, are they as good as Colorado? They're not.
No.
So you just go around the whole, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Joe Sakic and his entire management team, Chris McFarland, all those guys, they've done an amazing job there. Colorado, they've really done a good job.
It's actually, now that you say that, Pierre, too, think about how much different that roster looks right now than even when they just started the season. I'm not talking about just the offseason. I'm talking about games into the season. I'd have to go back and see when the first move they made, right? They revamped the goaltending.
Yeah.
They
got the 2 Woods. They got Wedgwood and Blackwood. They got Wood in net. That's what they got.
That you know what? That's some gutsy,
Well, no, but Jimmy, last year when we talked, getting ready for the playoffs, we said they cannot win with Georgiev in goal. Now, did they win the first series? They did. They beat Winnipeg.
They did. But that's because the other goalie fell apart.
Yeah, Hellebuck was not very good. No, he wasn't. That's Winnipeg still got to look at that. But when you look at the whole thing, I think what Colorado's done with their roster is amazing. Miles Wood's going to be a healthy scratch for game 1.
Yep. Yeah. I'm with you.
He's playing on most teams' top 9.
What I want to ask you, though, when I'm thinking about this, and it's a great question because I might apply it to a story I'm going to do on the Bruins, is how often, I don't think I've seen it often, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you've noticed it more than me, but how often do you see a general manager or a management staff as a whole recognize in season that they didn't do enough or did the wrong things in the off season leading into that season and just say, all right, that's it. We're going to revamp everything in the middle of the season. I don't remember many teams doing that. And that's exactly what Colorado did. And I think that takes a lot of guts and also recognition of, you know what, I will correct this mistake. I did make a mistake in that position there. I'm going to correct it. You don't see that too often in season. It's usually in the off season.
You go back to when I was starting out in the league. Craig Patrick did it 2 years in a row, and we won back-to-back cups. You look at Montreal in 93, they did a little of that. You look at the Rangers in 94 under Keenan and Neil Smith, they did a lot of that. They fixed their roster during the season. They obviously went on to win the Stanley Cup. It doesn't happen as much anymore, Jimmy, and the biggest reason why, there's a thing called a salary cap. Yeah. So you're not wrong on that. I think it's a really good point by you, but again, the cap comes into play, and this is why, away from the air, you and I have talked about it a lot. I believe any team that spends to the cap is fundamentally flawed because you have no wiggle room to use an eraser and make adjustments. And I've said that in every GM's meeting I ever been in with owners, going through the interview process. I said, look, I know you got a lot of money and I know you could probably spend in the cap, but I'm telling you, my guidance to you would be not every team's perfect. And sometimes you got to make adjustments over the course of a season. And if you're up against the cap all the time, people are going to hold it against you. It's a weapon. It's a weapon in trade talks. And people don't want to talk about that because it's the dirty little secret because it allows people to make more money. But if you go to the cap all the time, you're not going to make your team better at the right time.
No, and you know what? This goes back to another thing, another motto that you always have, Pierre, is owners own, managers manage, coaches coach, players play. And it can get a little iffy if an owner says, in the off season, I want you to show our fans and spend all the way to the cap. And I want to show that and I saw that happen here. I mean, I think that is part of it with Boston is that they've had a notorious reputation over the years of being a little tight with their money. And I think they want to show their fans, hey, we're spending in the cap, but that's great and all, but are you spending wisely? And are you leaving yourself, as you said, enough room to correct a mistake midstream? So great job by Colorado. I think they're a model franchise for that, for the way they were able to do that.
Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland deserve a lot of credit. I know I've told you this story before. I remember, I'm going to say before the cap. So I'm going to say it's like 02 to 04, right in there. I was in Buffalo to do a game with Gordon Miller, and there just happened to be a lot of NHL GMs in town. And so we went to dinner with Kenny Holland, who was running Detroit, obviously, at the time. We went to dinner with another general manager who will remain nameless, and a third general manager who will remain nameless as well. And we were sitting at dinner, so it was Gord, myself, and these three GMs. And the one GM says, there's no cap yet. I'm going to spend up to $100 million, and my owner's giving me the blessing. And I looked right at him, and I said to him, there's not $100 million worth of players that you could sign that would make your team better. And I'm telling you right now, if you do that, you're going to get fired. And both the other general managers looked at me like, whoa, I agree with you, but they didn't want to say anything. And the general manager got fired. He did the spending, and he ended up getting fired. And the owner gave him the blessing to go do it.
Yeah, but it's not the owner who's going to pay the price. It's going to be him.
At the end of it, the owner says, yeah, go do it. And then when it doesn't work, they're like, no, you're out.
No, jeez. All right. Well, we'll get back to kind of looking back at some of the games and looking ahead later. But let's bring on the wonderful Scotty Bowman here, joining us on the eye test. Always a pleasure. Hello, Mr. Bowman. How are you?
I'm doing well.
You are doing well. You look fantastic. Too much sun. You got to get the sunscreen going.
You got the most. You got beat last night in Calgary, though, right behind the bench.
Oh, I know. Scotty thinks I'm Ryan Huska.
James, he looks like it. There's no more like him. I've looked all over the world.
I see it.
Thank you. He lost again.
Pierre's a little more handsome now.
Oh, Scotty's the best. Hey, you know what, Scotty? Before you came on, I said, Scotty's so good. Coaches should be using him as a resource all the time. And I don't want to give away all your secrets, but how many coaches have reached out to you, think, this year, Scotty, without giving up names?
Oh, I talked to a few of them, maybe half a dozen, but I'm actually pretty friendly with Anders. I really like the man in Chicago because, he started off. He actually coached my grandson on a team at Mission, and he's trying to stay with the big team. I don't know what's going to happen, but I thought he did a pretty good job, under the circumstances. They brought in a lot of young players, Anders, and he's pretty excited. He's getting a chance in the NHL.
Yep.
Good stuff. Scotty, we'll get your sort of take on the whole league, but we want to focus in right now, obviously, in the Montreal Canadiens in a position to clinch a playoff spot with a point tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes. Let's look back on Monday night when they were in the same position there. They just had a win in any fashion. In your assessment, what did you think went wrong with the Canadiens on Monday? What was the one thing that stood out to you that you think they could have done better?
Well, I looked at their schedule, and I was looking the way that they made that great comeback against Detroit. A lot of emotion coming back and able to tie it and win it. And then you're into Ottawa. They didn't, Ottawa was looking to clinch too, and we know they have a solid team. And then going into Toronto, I mean, the score kind of flattered the game, maybe, but still the score was 0-0 till we know what happened later. But I thought they ran out of gas. I was thinking about that game against Chicago, and I'm wondering how much energy can they just didn't have a lot of energy. And well, Pierre knows that could happen to teams. I'm amazed that the NHL has this series. Some teams are playing up to tomorrow night, and it's foreign. It's not like a game a week. It's some of the teams. I think I even saw Vegas is playing tomorrow night somewhere. On a Thursday night. Now, obviously, everybody can't play on Saturday. I know they want to do the weekend. They haven't got the date. The dates are coming out tomorrow. I think the Lightning and the Panthers are the scuttlebutt is that they may get the network game on Easter Sunday. The early they may have. Would they have two games on that Sunday? Pierre?
Yeah,
Two now. Yeah,
they're doing three.
So
let me
the
double.
first
I actually part earlier.
12:30 the start. The first game.
That's usually when it will start. 12:30. Scott, I was going to ask you about Toronto. They're playing tomorrow night against Detroit. They can't play on Saturday night. They're going to lose. They'd lose a whole audience in Canada. You play Toronto Ottawa on Saturday. That's a bad start for Toronto.
Well, you think it's Saturday? Is it definite?
No, I don't think they'll play on Saturday. I think they'll play Sunday. Toronto.
I
don't know the definites, but I do know that somebody with the league told me that, and Pierre's right, any team that's going to play Thursday night has to play Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday or Monday?
Sunday or Monday.
Yeah. Sunday or Monday.
Yeah. They wouldn't expose those teams to play 2 days after they finish. That's good. Well, I mean, that's a big factor. And, it's been such a tough 2 weeks for teams. Some teams have not been playing their lineup. Some teams have been injured and trying to rest up. It's so much different than we started, because I think I might have told Pierre the story, but when I was with the Blues in '69, it would have been our third year. We had a pretty good lead. And the late Clarence Campbell, he called us in Los Angeles, our 76 game schedule. He called myself and Lynn Patrick and said, I expect you to play your full lineup tonight, even though the game is, we were at about a 13 or 14 point lead. But the game meant something, not for the Kings, but if the Kings lost or won, it had an effect on another team. And we were getting ready for the playoffs, but it's so much different now. Like, in those days, there was only about 12 teams, so you could pretty well keep your handle on who's tired and you couldn't sit players out. I mean, but it's all different now. I mean, injuries, and you got the fact that they have a pretty heavy schedule. So if the teams don't want to play the players, but it's not exactly even, because some of the teams, but they know the rules. They really couldn't sit out a lot of guys because they have no cap room, and you can't put a guy on the LTI because you haven't got enough time and enough games left. So I mean, it's a bit of a, I think Toronto. I don't know what they must be near the cap. Pierre, are they ready?
They're very close. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when they play, you said they play. Who do they play?
Detroit tomorrow night. Detroit.
So they would have to play. They'd have to play their team, wouldn't they? Pretty well.
I think they're pretty much playing their team tomorrow.
But they do carry, like, the teams have 23 players on the roster. So if everybody was healthy, you got 2 goalies. Usually that's 21. So you got 21 skaters. You dress 18. But I don't know how many teams have extra players now.
Yeah. Who's going to win the Florida series between Tampa and Florida? Nobody knows those two teams better than you.
Tampa's really been playing outstanding hockey, Pierre. I mean, they've been giving up a few more goals than they used to, but their offense is really gelling. they don't really worry about Vasilevsky. He plays a lot of hockey. He can play. He doesn't look tired. With the Florida team, to me, like, I'm sure Tkachuk is in the lineup, but like, it's his first game since the Four Nation tournament. Ekblad's going to miss the first two. Bennett's been back playing. They have Paul Maurice has sat out. If you know, Barkov and Reinhardt down the stretch have missed some. I would say they missed 3 or 4 games, and I think Lundell missed last night. So it's really, these teams have been playing each other for the last 5 years. Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky are in the top echelon of goaltenders. The Panthers check well. If they, I think the big danger would be early in the playoffs. You know, the people say, well, the referees don't call, the game is tight, but in the first round, you better be careful on penalties. That would be the one. That would be the one article that I would say the Panthers. I don't think you'd want, not either team, but I wouldn't want to put the Lightning on a lot of power plays. You know, that's when Kucherov and Point, and they got a lot of guys that can put the puck in the net now. You know.
Yeah, Scotty, you understand repeating and playing so many state Stanley Cup finals. Florida's got to be out of gas a little bit, I would think, going back-to-back final. But here's my big question for you. No Brandon Montour, no Oliver Ekman-Larsson. How much does that change the Florida Panthers team, Scotty, in your opinion?
Well, they played regular. When you lose 2 of your top defensemen that went through the entire playoffs and played in the top 6, and, you know, they have added Jones. That's one that they did add about maybe 20 games ago or so. You know, they don't have the experience of Montour, though. You know, he's an offensive type of guy. He was pretty good at joining the rush. Ekman-Larsson's done a good job in Toronto. You know, he's maybe not the player he was 10 years ago, but yes, it's a different game for them. But I still see the Panthers not getting shelled a lot with a lot of shots. And most nights when they have their full team, it's not a bunch of players. It's a team effort. They really Maurice has used a lot of players in different. You know, he's developed a lot of the newer players that they put in this year. It's going to be a great series. They've played each other. I think the goaltending is pretty well a toss up because he's had a great run too. You know.
Yep, absolutely.
Scotty, looking at the Montreal game tonight, if you were Marty St. Louis right now, how are you approaching as a coach with some young players, obviously, that don't have experience in a game like this? I know they got it a little the other night, but they didn't seem to react too great to it. How do you approach tonight if you're the coach?
You're right. It was it wasn't their last look the other night against Chicago, but with Demidov coming in and playing, and the fans, I mean, the atmosphere, I've never heard a deafening noise after he scored his goal. But, you know, at the same time, I don't think it was a distraction because he's such a formidable player in the game, and they were careful when they used him. But at the same time, this should help them now. It's not like he came back and they want to use him. I mean, they want to use him in the playoffs. They want to make sure they get him for the long haul, which is in the future. So I think, you know, I at one time I saw where Rod Brindamore mentioned somewhere to I think it was to our mutual friend Pierre
Trip Tracy.
Yeah, he was going to play his lineup.
Yeah,
but now he's going to play. He's going to play Skyler. He had a pretty decent year. That's his son, and he's going to play the son of Stillman, a defenseman. He's been a marginal defenseman in the league. I don't know the other 2 players.
Well, Bradley Nadeau, Scotty, is a tremendous Bradley Nadeau is going to play tonight. He's a big-time point getter. Kid out of the Maritimes, and he played at University of Maine. He's a tremendous offensive player, Scotty.
So he's going to have a lot of energy tonight. Is that his first game?
Yeah, it's his second game. His second game in the NHL.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, I think Montreal will be a bit better tonight, though. The fact that, you know, the excitement of Demidov is it's not like it was the first game. They know that they don't have any cushion. And the fact is that they got an extra day after they came back from Toronto. They played the one game, and they've done it all year. I mean, they've been, their back has been against the wall. So I mean, that other team, they're the dangerous teams when those kind of teams play. But I would say the start of the game is so important for Montreal. They've been winning games by coming back. They came back the other night and they lost in a shootout. When the fella Nazar scored the winning goal and beat them. But I look for them to play a solid game, and it's going to be a game where they need a point. They're kind of fortunate. It's not there's no restrictions. You don't have to win the game in regulation. Can they play it pretty tight down in the third period? But I would think it would be a big disappointment if they don't be able to. Because a week ago, I don't think anybody would think this scenario could have happened. Because is this the fourth game that they've had a chance? Or yeah, they went back.
Friday was their first chance. Toronto, their second chance. Chicago. Yep. So this is their fourth opportunity. Yep. This is their fourth. This is their fourth opportunity.
They have. It's not like, I mean, home ice has been so important to this team. Home ice, the crowd, and that's why the crowd is always good if you can get them something to be good about, and that would be a good start. I think if they could they'll know what's at stake, and if they can get off to the Blues last night, I was wondering about that game against Utah. They pretty well had to win the game, but they really poured it on in the first period. I mean, they won the game. They won the game in the first 20 minutes, and they won it going away. Yeah. But they had to win that game, and Montreal has to win the game. I mean, it's not the end of the line for these guys. They got so many good young players, but this would give them a tremendous amount of experience if they could get by this 1 point.
Jimmy, one of the things I'm so grateful for over 40 years, I had this history lesson from all the time from Scotty. Scotty, what was it like when Guy Lafleur would touch the puck in the form, full force through the neutral zone? You're standing on the bench. What was that like?
Well, I mean, he was the player in the 70s, Pierre. I think we didn't maybe not appreciate it as much as people now watch film and watch what he could do. And he was not a player that pushed himself on people. As you know, he was an ordinary person that became a superstar and was always a great young player. But it took him a while. Everything wasn't handed to him, and the crowd knew that he was such a clutch player, and the league was pretty good at that time. And I don't think teams got credit. The Philadelphia Flyers were when I first started in 71, they were really starting to come. And that series we had in 70, he was a terrific player in all series. But that Philadelphia team they were a handful and plus, and he drew the people out of their seats. That's what I would say. And that it looks like this young kid, Demidov it looks like he's a kid that's going to do things individual, not just moving the puck somewhere and getting it back. And that's what Guy could take the puck himself. He could score goals and he could make plays. Those kind of players are. I mean, there's a lot of great players. I think that's what I'm glad I saw today. The players in the league voted best all-around player this year, Sidney Crosby. That's a big accomplishment, and I think the reason that the players they're those players that vote, and they know this guy is so formidable both ways. I mean, they're face-offs. Showing up every game, playing offense, playing defense, playing in the late stages. And we didn't have to do that with Guy as much. We had good penalty killers, so it helped him be a great offensive player. And in that era, players like Guy, Bossy was the other one that didn't play as long a career, but Mike Bossy didn't have to kill penalties as well, and they were great goal scorers. But the other guy I got to mention, and I don't think anybody's kind of mentioned it. I feel you might have mentioned it, Pierre. But I was really involved with watching Ovechkin and everybody that was in the NHL. and how the amazing statistics, 1497. He gets his 695th goal, same amount of games. So I looked up Mario Lemieux, and Pierre knows about this maybe, but 915 regular season games, and he scored 690 goals. 200 less, and he had 500 less games.
I know.
Maybe close to 600, and then another 1,800 assists. And it's just like I saw the people talking about the great goal scorers, and they mentioned Bossy, and I don't know if they mentioned Lafleur. They mentioned Yager, and they mentioned the fellas that have played a long time. And I said, I get a chance, I got to mention Mario. Imagine 915 regular season games, and Pierre and I know that a lot of those games he couldn't even tie up his skates. I mean, he played with the injury that you wouldn't want to play with, but a lot of players do that. That's not, I mean, he's not the only one that ever did that, but I couldn't believe that when I saw, and that meant that to me, every 9 games, he scored 7 goals. And not taking anything away from Wayne Gretzky or as a goal scorer or even Alex Ovechkin, but, if you look at their record, I mean, is like about 5.5 goals every 10 games, and it's a different era. You can't say that this is better than that. I don't like when they try to compare players from 40 years ago, 30 years ago. It's not a comparison. I'm watching the game in Tampa the other day, and I'm watching that long pass goes up all the time. The defensemen are backing up, and Pierre, I wish I would have talked a little bit, but that ringette line always impressed me, is the possibility to put the line across the top of the face-off circle, and that was a hybrid center line. I know Bobby wants to take. A lot of people want to take out the center and put it back in. I'm not sure about it. I would like to try anything. I like the game as it is now. The only thing I don't like now, I don't like a pass that goes 100 feet. That's the only thing. I don't like those passes. Yeah. I think it's opened up the game for sure. But I would like to have seen the player have to reach that ringette line in Canada, which is above the circle, a little more than about a halfway from the goal line, and then they could move the puck all the way up. I would like to see it played and say what's the difference in the game, because some of the games now. Not all of them. They won't be in the playoffs, I don't think. The ping pong ball going back and forth, I don't like it.
Jimmy, you know what's amazing? In 2004-05, right after Tampa won, I was at Scotty's home in Sarasota, and we were talking about the new rules that were coming in, and he's the only person that said to me, they got to put the ringette line. If they're going to take the red line out, they got to put the ringette line. He was 100% right. Think about it. So you've got to get to the top of the circle in your own zone before you can pass it to the far blue line.
Yeah,
we're not putting the red line back in.
No, you can't put the red line back in.
No, we're not putting. No,
put
the
red
line
lines in. He's a
hybrid. Now, there is an argument against it. Here's the biggest argument. When I did talk to people that were considerate of thinking about it, they said another line to worry about for the linesman. They said, who is going to be able to call that? I said, well, I don't know. That's something that I've never been a referee. I don't know what they have to go through, or a linesman even. I know the linesman could patrol the blue lines pretty well. They'd have to. That's another line on the ice. That's the only thing is I'm not sure if we want any more markings on the ice.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But Jimmy, I can tell you, go back to 04-05.
Yep.
Scotty was talking about this. He said, This is the only concern I have about the red line. We war game the whole thing.
I did talk to I talked to Brendan a little bit. Brendan was a big factor with many other people, and he took a lot of suggestions from many. I mean, he didn't make the final decision. The whole hockey ops. I mean, they had to. I mean, there's no question that game in Tampa when
Game 7.
No, the game I was going to refer to was when I think it was John Tortorella coaching. I'm trying to remember. He wasn't. No, it was
No, it was Guy Boucher. Guy Boucher
Philadelphia
against
Yeah.
Laviolette.
And
I broadcast the game.
I still remember. As I was sitting in the press box. I remember Chris Pronger standing with the puck at the between the blue line and that little red line.
Yeah.
And standing there, nobody's coming near him. But I think that was something that kind of showcased the issue that we had that was going to maybe get worse. That because teams could really play. I know in Detroit. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but when we started to win games and starting to get close to winning, it was only because of the left wing walk, and you couldn't do that now because the red line was our savior, and the red line we could have our defense stay up, we could have our wingers, we could have all left winger center on one side, we had our left defenseman in the middle of the rink, our right defenseman on the other. It was really hard for the teams to get out of their own end zone with any kind of offensive rush. But now, of course, you would never be able to do that because they could go to the far blue line.
Right.
But I do think that the trapping of the game, and people say, well, the great players, they can't. I mean, even now, the good teams this year that play. I mean, I watch Los Angeles a lot. I watched Rangers at the beginning of the season. I saw them last year. I can't tell you what happened, but that when they were going with that 1-2-1 all the time, or 1-2-2 rather, 1-2-1-1 or 1-2-2, it's hard to get through because Pierre knows individually good players that are skillful. They think they can pretty well go through anything, but you can't go through all those picket lines. You can't go through them. The only thing you can sort of go, and it's hard to practice, you have two guys against one. You got to go, and then when you get through the first guy, you go to the next guy, and eventually something's going to happen. It's really hard to beat that system, but that's why they keep the red line out.
Hey, Jimmy, just so you know, the Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup in '92 because a gentleman, it's on our screen, he changed our neutral zone from being aggressive to a 1-4 delay. You couldn't play that anymore with the red line. That's number one. Number two, I want to ask Scotty one question because this time of the year, depth lines matter. He's the architect that put together the grind line. Darren McCarty, Chris Draper, and Kirk Maltby. How'd you come up with that idea, Scotty?
Well, defensively, when you have offensive players, you need some different types of players. You can't just have them all the same. So, they weren't players that had an offensive flair. And the fact is that when you're going up against when you go up against a line, like we'll take one of the best lines in the league right now is Matthews, Nyes, and Marner. Mm-hmm. Saw them on Sunday. I saw them last week. Last Thursday, they came into Tampa in a game that had a lot of atmosphere, probably for first place. Boy, I mean, Matthews and those players, they came as if it was a playoff game. And, if I had to play against that line, I don't know, I wouldn't want just a checking line. I wouldn't want just an offensive line. I wouldn't want a line that couldn't play a little aggressive. So that's why we formed that line. We wanted to the same thing with when I was in Montreal. We were lucky because we had two great defensive players in Jarvis and Gainey, and then we also had sometimes Jim Roberts, sometimes Réjean Houle. Then we had another line of Doug Riseborough, Lambert, and Tremblay. They were more like Draper, Maltby, and McCarty. They could grind it out and they could defend themselves. And when we played Philadelphia in 1970, the first year that they lost, they won in 74 and they won in 75. So it'd be 76. The best line that I ever coached against in all my days in the National Hockey League was Clark, Barber, and Leach. There was not a line in the league that year, and we had good offensive lines, but they would pick us apart. They had a record of, like, I'm going to guess a bit now, 75 goals for and about 20 against, even strength. So you're not going to beat that. So the only reason we went with and we had to practice it, and we played Mahavlich, Lafleur, and Schutt, and I used to put them out there, especially on the road, 20 seconds, get off. Or I would start Riseborough, Lambert, Tremblay. Why those three? They're going to be able to stand up. Clark was a pretty aggressive player, and if you don't have anybody that's tough against him, you're going to be in trouble. And then we had a checking line: Jarvis, Gainey, and Regin Houle. And I said we're not going to be able to play against that line unless we have a different style all the time. And so that was the reason that I did it in Detroit. I said we got to give them somebody different that we can really think about playing. And you know, that's why it's important that you can't have a line. It's hard to get just an all-around checking line against one line. You're going to run out of time.
Right.
Jimmy, this is unbelievable what you just told me. So I have one more question for the coach. How much did Larry Robinson's fight with Dave Schultz matter in those series?
Well, you know, Larry, I was always never wanted him to fight because, you know, especially against players that could fight like that. I think what changed the series, Pierre, was a body check that he put on a good, tough player. Oh no, Gary was a good player, and that didn't change the series. But that fight, Schultz could really fight. I mean, he did it a lot. You know, he was strong. He was physical. He was big guy. Yep. Sort of like, you know, those kind of guys like Semenko and that. Boston's had a few guys. That Dave Brown. These are guys that they don't lose fights. And Larry was a big guy. You know, Larry's 6'3.5", nearly 6'4", and he was a strong guy, upper body strength. I don't know if he practiced much. I don't think he did, but when he got going, he could really swing them. So that helped a lot because what it did to the team, it did to his teammates something that people never thought would happen, and it was a surprise element.
Yep. Gotcha. Scotty, before we let you go, I just want to get one question to you about the Canadiens. Should they make the playoffs, they'll match up against the Washington Capitals. You're them. I mean, obviously you're focusing on Ovechkin. We get that. But what else are you aware of when it comes to the Washington Capitals that you got to be worried about?
Team passing skills. They're not too unlike the Kings. People don't know a lot. They know Ovechkin, they know Wilson. Now they know a little bit about Strome, McMichael, but there's a lot of players that they don't even talk about. They're not stars and they're not mediocre. They're in between, and they're very adept when they get in the other zone. They got good plays back to the point, and if he can shoot it at the net, and there's people at the net, they're like a carbon copy of the Kings. Two men to the net, the one high guy swings back to the top, and you'll see them. They'll have 2 point men, but they'll have the high forward comes back in circles, and so now you've got 3 different players that could shoot the puck at the net, and you must practice it a lot. The guy has done a great job, and they got good size forwards that are good around the net. They got players like Protas. They got players like Strome. They got guys that can handle. They're tall and they got good sticks and they got good tip ins. So I like the way they play in the offensive zone. Their defensemen can shoot the puck at the right time, same as the Kings, and they get pucks at the net all the time. And how many goals do we see now? If there's people at the net, so they don't worry about it. Puck goes back to the point. If you're not one of the high guys on the forwards, you go to the net. You keep going to the net. And I would say the one thing Montreal would have to be very aware of is, boy, I wouldn't want to be in our own end too much. Mm-hmm. I would want to try to exit the puck as quick. I would say probably the Henri Richard, system. When they asked him, Henri, what system do you use to take the puck out of your own end? He said, we get it out as fast as we can. So that's what I would tell you to do. but he's not playing tonight.
Oh, Jimmy, nobody's better. Scotty,
Nope.
Thank you so much.
Well, good luck in the
Scotty.
playoffs. You guys are in the. Did you make the playoffs too? Yeah.
I'm watching playoffs in all the leagues. Just like you.
Oh yeah, we got no money.
I know what games you're watching. I know where you're watching. Don't worry.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Thanks, Scotty. Talk to
Thanks
you
so
later.
much.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Okay.
It's something else, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody. Put him on a bench. He's wiping the floor with almost every coach in this league.
An analyst. I haven't heard any analyst break down the Capitals like he just did, Pierre.
No, because this is what happens. He watches. He doesn't pretend. He doesn't watch the highlights the next morning. He actually talked about what the grind line was, why he put them together, and who actually was on the line.
Yeah, who actually was on the line. Exactly. Yeah, somebody screwed that up on social yesterday and got pretty mad at me, by the way, Pierre, when I corrected that person, but we'll move on. It's amazing the way he sees the game. And you know what I love listening to him too, Pierre, and you can see it and you know it because you're a coach and I see it when you talk to, is when he's explaining it to us, he's seeing it as if he's on the ice or he's on the bench, seeing the play develop. Do you know what I mean? Like I could see it in his eyes.
Did you hear what he said about time? He said 20 seconds. I used to stand next to him and he'd say to me, 30, once it gets to 30, because I'd have the stopwatch, he said, start telling me 31, 32, 33. Yep. And if a guy extended past 35, they got to the bench, they weren't going to be happy because he was going to stand right behind him. You're going to be like this. And you say, what did I freaking tell you? What did I freaking? And he knew the cameras were on him, so he didn't want to embarrass the guy, but he'd go right behind the guy. I told you 30 seconds. What the frig are you doing? And then we started over. And his brain was like, is still a supercomputer.
It's amazing.
And, you know, I'll never forget this. I've told you this story many times. We're in Chicago Stadium, and he used to tell me all the time, Pierre, it's really loud in here. And I coach a bunch of games in there. And he kept telling me all the time, it's really loud in here. You got to make sure you're loud when you're changing on the fly. Make sure the guys know we don't want too many men on the ice penalties. And he'd say it all the time. So I went up to him and I said, hey, Scotty, and I was really loud. I said, Gordy doesn't have it tonight. I'm going to have to sit him down. He goes, that's your job. Get down there. I don't want to hear from you. Oh, he was too funny. And he's so smart. My goodness gracious. My goodness gracious.
I know. We could go on and on, man. It's already 4:51, but God bless. I could have gone another 2 hours.
Can you imagine? I was fortunate enough to be his roommate for 2 years.
Well, that's, you know, a lot of people in the comments section here is just in envy of you, Pierre, because of the relationship you have with him and how much you've gotten to know and learn from him. And it's true. I mean, you must feel so privileged and honored to have
just an amazing friend, loyalty, like 40 years. We didn't have cell phones when we first met. And the only way we became friends is he watched me run a practice. He says, if I go to the NHL, I want you with me. And I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Okay. I was like, I thought he was pranking me. I did.
Awesome. Wow. And the rest is history. The rest is history. Well, good stuff there. I'm glad, I wanted to get that breakdown of Washington there too, because I really do think
no analyst said
no.
None of them.
And we're both feel the same, that the Canadiens will have a chance if they make the playoffs. They could pull the upset. But I'm trying to listen to Scotty say that. I'm seeing things a little differently now, and I still think they could, but I'm going to be interested to see how they counter everything that Scotty just described.
What I'm going to talk to him about either later tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on what happens tonight, I'm going to ask him about the goalies, just between the two of us, because I don't feel comfortable sharing all of our conversations. It's not appropriate. But I'm going to ask him about the goalies for both sides, because I have and I've shared it here, I think that's where Washington might be a little light. I'm not saying they are, but that's my concern for them. I think everywhere else they're kind of ahead of Montreal. But my concern for them is I don't know where they are with their goalies. I just don't know.
Yeah, and I don't even know the timetable for Thompson, but it sounds like Lindgren will be starting game one at least.
Yeah, no, I believe he will be.
Yeah, so it's interesting to watch. Well, we'll break a lot of that down. Yep. Tomorrow we have it's just you and me. So maybe tomorrow we hopefully know the matchups by then if Montreal gets the job done tonight, Pierre, and we can start to really go in depth there. between the two of us. And then, of course, we'll get Ken Holland's take on Friday, because that's just the type of lineup we've had this week. It's been
I'll never forget. I was coaching in Hartford, and my phone rang in the office, and I slept in my office a lot. I just did, because that's just how it was back then. I was addicted to wanting to get this thing turned around where I was. And the phone rang, and it was Scotty, and he goes, "You won't believe what's going to be announced tomorrow." I go, "What's going to be announced tomorrow?" He goes, "There's going to be 3 GMs of our team, Jimmy Devellano, Kenny Holland, and me." He goes, "What do you think of that?" I said, "Yeah, it's a 3-headed monster." That's what I told him.
That's amazing.
Wow. Oh, I was laughing so hard.
Anyhow, let's get to our wonderful sponsors right now, and we'll get into the Q&A, because I do want to get the questions in. There's some good ones over there. All right, let's tell you about TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And, of course, our wonderful sponsors over at Betway, where you can still go right now and sign up for an account. Use the QR code right in front of you if you're watching, or just go to the website if you're listening, and go to the details section and create your new account. And you can get a welcome offer. Well, they will match your first bet, even if you lose, with up to $200 credit. That's right. You get paid to lose. But I hope you don't lose. So you can go over there right now. And that offer is only available, as I said, to new customers. It is also not available in Ontario. And you must be 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. Let's get to my sick pick of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, I went 1 for 2 last night, Pierre. I'm going to stick to one game, and that's the only game that really matters in terms of playoff contention tonight. And, of course, that is the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, as I said, they need 1 point. So all they have to do is just get a point. So if it's tied, so be it. They go to overtime. So just remember that when you're betting this. And that's why I like the Canadiens in regulation. All right. So give me the Canadiens in regulation. And the other one I'm going to throw in there is I'm just kind of leaning toward this, because I do think, as Scotty said, it's so important for them to have a great start. And they did have that the other day, but then they let up. I don't think they let up. So take the Canadiens in the second period and just wait as you're watching it. So I can't give you the value on that, but on the regulation, it's plus 120 for the Canadiens in regulation. But if you're watching live, one of the things they offer at Betway is live betting, and you can just see the different things will update. Look for the second period money line and take the Canadiens there, because I think that's where they'll want to really bury it and really cement the win and get that point. So keep an eye on that as the game goes on. And then 1 goal prop. He'll admit, I don't know if he did it publicly, but I'm sure he would. Nick Suzuki wasn't himself the other night. I thought the whole line was kind of off. I think Nick Suzuki has a huge night tonight, Pierre. I like him to score a goal at plus 150. You can get Nick Suzuki on the goal prop. All right, let's get to the Q&A. All right, Pete, assuming Newhook and Demidov stay on the same line, would you leave Newhook with zone entry responsibilities or give that role to Demidov?
I think are you talking about the power play? Because 5-on-5, that really doesn't kick in. So if you're talking about the power play, the answer is yeah, I would at this time. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But Demidov and Newhook definitely going to be on a line together.
They are on the line again together, and actually Patrick will be on the line.
And it's what we talked about last week or the other day. Don't bury Line, because you're going to once you bury him, you got a problem. We talked about this. Scotty wouldn't have done that. I'm just telling you, he wouldn't have.
No.
And that's why I brought it up to you right away. I was like, "This
don't announce it either." And by the way, I want to credit Marty St. Louis. He did not do what he did before. He didn't vocally announce it. I'm looking at the forward lines based on what reporters at the rink today at the game day skate said were the rushes. That's all I'm giving you. I'm not saying that Marty St. Louis flat out said it like he did the other night. So that's a good thing that he didn't do that, Pierre.
Good for you.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, do you think Dante Fabro has found a home with Columbus? He looks like he has.
Yeah, I watched Dante play for Penticton for our friend Fred Harbinson. I watched him play at Boston University. Watch him obviously break in with Nashville. I think he's found a home. I do. I think he's found a home in Columbus. They seem to really like him a lot. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, I like that. It was kind of one of those trades too when it happened, Pierre. I was like, maybe this is the reset the kid needs, and it looks like he has. All right, next question. Paul Cormier, another great show, guys. Thank you. Question, with a future star rookie coming into a team and showing above average talent, would that be a chip to be played by a GM to convincing a second line center to come be part of the rebuild? For sure, Paul. For sure.
100%, Paul. Really good point. Really good point. Yep.
I still maintain, though, I think that solution happens through a trade, just because it might take less persuading to get them there in free agency. All right, next question. Juice _031-017. Should Gardner McDougall be the head coach of Team Canada at the World Juniors next year?
A lot of people are talking about that, so I think that's a fair point. I know there'll be some other guys too. I think Corey Stillman's coaching the U18 team at the World Championships this year, and I know Matthew Turcotte's going to be one of his assistants. I know that the Americans have already decided on their coaching staff, and so we'll see. It's got to be announced pretty soon, I think, for Team Canada. But why not? Gardner's done a tremendous job. He's been a very good coach.
Yeah, and that's starting right up soon, Pierre, that tournament. So,
by the way, I should have said it. Bob Motzko is going to be the coach for the Americans. I apologize.
I thought he – okay.
No, Bob's going to be the coach. It's in Minnesota. He's obviously the University of Minnesota coach. He won, I think it was 2016 in Montreal. He was a gold medal winning coach for Team USA. So I kind of get why they did that. And we'll get Bob on the show here in the next little while just to talk about it. I think it probably a little later in the playoffs just because I don't think it's appropriate when the first round's going on to get that.
Agreed.
But I'll tell you one thing, he's got a lot of players playing pro hockey. Like right now, he's got a lot playing in the NHL. He's got a lot playing in the American League. He's got a ton playing in his pro. He's got a lot of guys playing pro hockey playoffs. Bob Motzko. He does.
He's got one that he can watch right in his own state because congratulations to the Minnesota Wild and Bill Guerin, our guest yesterday, clinched the playoff spot so he can watch Brock Faber playing for the Wild in the playoffs. All right, next question.
Good job, Jimmy.
John the Siren. Question. I know everyone is excited about the Canadiens and Demidov, but Kane's calling up Bradley Nadeau is exciting. I totally agree, Sound the Siren.
We talked about
him.
Yeah, we like Bradley a lot. He's another Penticton guy. His brother's still at the University of Maine. Bradley was tremendous as a freshman. He was a first-round pick. I was shocked. I was so angry. His first year eligible for the World Junior. They didn't take him. Remember that? How mad I was really mad. And then because he was playing college, and then they took him the second year, and took him this year, and he was really good. Bradley was really good. I don't know. I wouldn't compare Nadeau and Demidov. It's not fair to Nadeau. They're two totally different players. But it's exciting if you're Carolina. He's a good player. Really, that's why I was trying to explain it to Scotty. This kid's for real. He's a good player, Nadeau. He's good.
Another one that a lot of scouts passed on, but here he is. All right, next question. Rod K, what are the pros cons with the Habs starting Demidov versus the Wild not starting William? Pure talent versus team chemistry. Is it dependent on the player or the system? Brad, you nailed it right there. I think it's very situational. I think it just depends where you are, what the situation is, who the player is, what he can. I think it's very situational. So I don't know.
I completely agree with Jimmy. Jimmy knows I talked about a lot on the air and off the air. I just didn't like I hope they didn't alienate any players. I don't think they did in Montreal, but that would have been my biggest concern. That being said, how could you not be a fan of Demidov? How could you not be? Gosh. I mean, Jimmy, this is a spectacular. Even Scotty, he's like, whoa, this guy.
He's so made for that market.
Look, he didn't say he was better than Guy Lafleur. He didn't say that. But
no, he didn't.
He said
he's talking about the excitement.
Yeah, the excitement level. And that's what I've been talking about.
Yeah.
You had to be there. You had to be. He had a way better seat than me. I was in the standing room in the Old Forum. He was on the bench. I can tell you, though, when Lafleur touched the puck in the Old Forum, you knew.
Yeah.
You could be out buying a hot dog, and you could hear the crowd, and you knew Lafleur had the puck.
Yep. You know what I loved the other day, too, was and who was talking about it? I think it might have been Melnick yesterday. There was a clip and you were on with him, and they were talking about the clip where you couldn't see it because you were watching the Chicago broadcast, but when they showed him on the Jumbotron, and he's just like embracing the noise after his first goal, and he goes, "Holy bleep. Like, this is insane."
I was watching the Chicago broadcast because Rick Ball was on. I think Rick's really good. So I was watching and listening
But you
to
said
Rick.
even they were in awe of him, huh?
They were the whole show. They were talking about Demidov in a positive way, which usually you don't get from the Chicago show because they're talking about Connor Bedard and they're talking about their Lev Shunov. They're talking about all their young guys too.
Right.
You know, which Chicago's got, like Nazer had an amazing week so far. I mean, what he did last night in Ottawa, what he did the night before in Montreal, Frankie Nazer's played really, really well.
For sure. All right, next question. Peter Puck. What's up, Peter? Thanks, Pierre, for bringing on Scotty. He looks amazing. I have a question about the Rangers. How many coaches does Drury get to fire before his job is in jeopardy? The Rangers are a mess. It's a great question, Peter.
It is. I hate to speculate on people's. Yeah, I hate to speculate on people's jobs. Jimmy knows. I haven't been a fan of what's been going on in New York since last summer, and I said it. I don't want to repeat it, but something's gone awry. Something's gone awry there. Yeah, it's just not appropriate. It's not the way to run a team, and they know better. Especially Chris. Chris has been a big time player in a lot of different things. They know better than to leak stuff out. They know better than that. They do. Again, they know better than that.
The most interesting, if not the most interesting this offseason will be the New York Rangers. All right, we got 12 more. Let's motor through. What do we got? Zahal, if Montreal makes the playoffs, what would be considered a success and what would be considered a failure?
No failure. There's no failure. No, just they've made making the playoffs a success. There's no failure now. You're playing with house money right now.
Yep. Love it. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, if you're GM, how close is Mitch Love to becoming a head coach? Pierre, we heard his name a couple times over the last few years.
First of all, he did a real good job coaching Calgary's farm team. Mitch is a really good coach. He's obviously done a great job in Washington too. I would say that he's getting closer. Now, the problem you have now, Quenneville's out there, so that's a bit of a problem. You know, Julian's done a good job in St. Louis. You got to think he's back in the queue. David Carl from Denver is in the queue. Carville at UMass is in the queue. So that's the problem. It's hard to get these jobs. People don't realize because other guys are getting back in the queue again, and that's so it makes it a little difficult.
There could be, like we don't want to say, but there could be other coaches with jobs right now that get back into it too. So
yeah, well, that's what, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't like to speculate on that.
No, I'm saying though, Pierre, he's
a good coach. Mitchell's a good coach
for sure when it comes to the coaching landscape right now. All right, next question. Alex Cameron, just want your guys' thoughts on Line A. He doesn't seem to move his feet much and looks like he's in and out during most games. It's getting frustrating. Should MSL have a chat? I think they're having chats a lot. I'm not there. That's just my opinion and my speculation, but I get it. I get your frustration, but I think MSL's done a pretty good job with him this year.
Oh, I think they have daily conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's always about hockey.
No.
I think it's about a lot of things in life. So I think Marty's done a good job with all his players, and he's learning how to run his bench. He is. He's learning how to run his bench. He's adjusting all the time, which I think is great. I think it's great.
All right, next question. P, what were your thoughts on Patrick Waugh's treatment of the rookie goaltender Lennox in his first game?
I was really upset.
Yeah. Lennox should have gone over to the bench and looked at the team.
No, but
1995.
I think Patty actually, I wasn't there, but I think Patty's already addressed it with the player.
Yeah, he did.
I think he's apologized from what I understand.
It was a bad
look at I did some bad stuff too as a coach. I think every coach, you regret it afterwards. And sometimes you go apologize, and other times, the guy doesn't want to hear your apology. I think in this case, Patty probably apologized.
All right, next question. Juice _031017. It's not too familiar with the position, but what exactly is the role of a senior advisor in an NHL organization?
Somebody that gives counsel to the general manager, somebody that can give counsel to the coaching staff, somebody that can go down and maybe straighten out your American Hockey League team. Senior advisors are really important. They're not traveling with the team all the time per se. They're not always going to be at every practice. They have a real good working understanding of the league. They have a real good working understanding of relationship with agents so that they can give you sound and precious advice. And that's, I got hired to do that job in Ottawa, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I thought it was great. And if, Mr. Melnick hadn't passed away, maybe I wouldn't be working with you, but I am working with you.
I got to say too, Pierre, I think the fact that they can have a little more objectivity helps as well, right?
Well, they're out of the fray. You're out of the fray. Yeah, you're out of the fray.
Yep.
Really good point. Absolutely, Jimmy. Really good point.
Yeah. Next question. Ian Lewis, I'd like to see Caulfield get back to his one-timer spot. Used to unwind like a spring, but since his injury, we haven't seen it much. Agree? You have noticed that too, Ian. Good call.
You haven't seen it as much. And also, don't forget Liney's over there. And so Liney's going to overpower people with his shot a little bit more than Cole is. Where I'd like to see them play Cole is actually in the bumper, because I think Cole's got quick enough feet and quick enough hands where he can get it and shoot it, or he can get it and pass it, or he can get it and open up for other people and make deflection plays because of his quick feet. So I'd like to see him in there more. I don't know if they'll do that, but I get it. I agree with the question, by the way. I agree with that.
All right, next question. Zahal, when does Michael DiPietro get another NHL shot?
Hard to say. I wish I could tell you. I just don't know. That one's a little hard.
Depends on what happens with Korpisalo this offseason.
So you know what I told you. Yes. I said once they get that contract, they're going to have a hard time moving that contract. Korpisalo.
They're going to try, but like Pierre said, it's going to be tough to do, but they will try. And if they are successful, then there you go. Maybe that's the opening DiPietro needs.
Well, I just want to know in Boston, because you are the heartbeat of the Boston Bruins. What kind of meetings are they having when they talk about their pro scouting and what's gone on with some of the recommendations?
I don't know, Pierre. All I know, and I want to get into it more tomorrow, but I just want to say I urge everybody out there, including you, Pierre. I forgot to send you the link. I will do so right after. There was a one-on-one. Jim McBride at Boston Globe, a great Bruins beat reporter, did a one-on-one with Charlie Jacobs, and I did not like the way Charlie Jacobs handled it. That's all. I'll leave it at that, and I'll explain tomorrow. Next question. Postnet on 130. What NHL player does Demidov remind you of? The Russian Rocket, Pavel Bure, the Roadrunner?
I said Maxime. Here's what I'm telling you. I think he's a lot like Maxime Afinogenov, but with way higher skill level. And Afinogenov had real good skill and an amazing motor. And there was probably a 5 to 7 year period. He was a really good player in the league. Yep. So I'm going to say, like, Demidov is higher level than that, but I see some Fedorov in him too.
Okay, so I was going to say, I wanted to say that yesterday, Pierre, and remember then you were on with Mitch and Aaron Ward, and you were saying that as well. And I was like, I said, damn it, I wish I said it because I like that too. I see Fedorov in him, and we should actually brought that up with Scotty, but I see Fedorov for sure.
Well,
all right,
it's not the last time Scotty's coming on, so don't worry.
All right, what do we got? Zahal again. Who would be on your free agency wish list? Jimmy for Boston and Pierre for Montreal. For Boston, I know we keep saying they need a center. I don't think they find it there. What I would look at is the defense, and I would look at one Aaron Ekblad if the Florida Panthers don't take him back. Pierre for Montreal, what are you thinking?
Second center.
Do you think it's
I don't think they're gonna get him in free agency though. No. I think they're gonna have to trade for it.
Yeah. All right. Next question. P, I know it's a lot of ifs, but I'm hearing the idea that if the Habs make the playoffs and lose game 1, Jack I will be inserted for game 2. You heard that here, P. Pierre said that's his suggestion. If that's the case, who's coming out?
Struble.
Yep. There you go. All right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski. Every time I drive past a yacht club, I think about anymore is a story about Scotty taking Pierre to the yacht club outside of Detroit with the Commodore the night before Game 5 of the 2002 final.
Amazing story. I was at the Marriott Hotel in Detroit, the Ren Center, as it was called, and my phone rang, and it was Scotty. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just got off Montreal radio." He goes, "I know, I listened to you." And then he goes, "Get downstairs, be dressed." I'm like, "Okay." And we drive to the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club, and we pull up right to the front of the Grosse Pointe. I had never been there. I'd never been to a yacht club in my life. Good thing I dressed appropriately. And we show up, and the Commodore, you know, those big hats, the Commodore comes out, and he says, "Mr. Bowman, Mr. McGuire, welcome to the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club. I forget his assistant's name. We'll escort you to this room." So we go to this private dining room, probably the second or third floor of the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club, and it's overlooking the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this is amazing. And Scotty looks right at me, and he goes, "I'm going to tell you something, and you can't tell anybody else until after the game tomorrow." I go, "What is it?" He goes, "We're going to win tomorrow. And when we win, I'm going to skate with the Stanley Cup. I've never done it before, but I want to do it. And Pierre, when we win tomorrow, you're going to be there. It's going to be my last game. But I wanted to tell you first."
Wow.
So I'm like, "What?" And then he says, "But you better not tell anybody." So I'm sitting there that whole night, and all he did the whole night was talk about all his games, his family, players that he coached. It was an amazing. I wish I had recorded it. It would have been amazing. But then we're driving back, and he goes, "I told you." He's pointing at me. "I told you. Don't you say a word." So that whole night, I couldn't say anything. The whole next day, and I'm working, and I can't say anything, and I don't say anything. Then he comes out with his skates on, and Bob McKenzie and Gordon Miller are like, "Wow, look at that lit." I'm like, "Yeah, I wasn't allowed to say anything. I knew." Oh, it was like killer. I couldn't believe it.
Yo, you should feel honored that he told you. All right, next question.
Those are one of those nights you always remember. You know,
Yeah.
I'll never forget that night.
All right, next question. Alex Cameron, do you think with all the injuries, Doc's window is closing in Montreal? I'll say that.
I'm worried about the injuries.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the injuries.
All right, next question. Is that it?
No.
Lewis, J&P, would you use a PP line of Hudson, Suzuki, Caulfield, Demidov, and Line 8, or would you spread them out over two lines or situational? I like the latter. Situational.
Situational. Eventually I see Demidov being on the first power play. Does he replace Line 8? I don't know. Does he replace Slafkovsky? I don't know. I don't think Caulfield's going anywhere. I don't think Suzuki's going anywhere. I don't think Hudson's going anywhere. So then you got to decide what you're going to do, you know. And so it's going to either be Line 8 or it's going to be Slafkovsky. It's not going to be both. It'll be one or the other.
All right. Next question. Bilal Abdelmalik. Pierre, what do you think about the Habs bringing in a player like Duchesne in the offseason to fill that 2C hole? I believe he was talking with Montreal a while back before choosing Dallas. I think he'd fit the mold.
He would definitely fit the mold, and he's going to be an important player. If Dallas is going to beat Colorado in their series, Duchesne's going to have to be an impact player for them. The one part that's hard about getting him is he's played in Tennessee, he's played in Colorado, and he's played in Texas. Two of those three are no-tax states. That's where it becomes hard to sign players like that to free agents when they come back to Canada. Look, I love Canada. I have a home there. My kids were born there. My mother still lives there. But for NHL players, the taxation issues are tough. People can say whatever they want. It's just a fact.
Yep. The next question, what do we got? Sound the siren. Pierre, how fortunate do you feel that you were able to hook up with Mr. Bowman early in your career? I mean, what a life.
Every day. Every day I'm grateful, and I make sure he knows. In one way or the other, I make sure he knows. He's been like a dad for me. He's been like an older brother, and he's also been a very strict influence on my life in a good way. So I'm really grateful for that. Yep.
All right. Next question. I think this is it. Vincent Yoel. Thank you, gentlemen. And once again, thank you for bringing the pinnacle of guests to this show. Where else do we get Hall of Fame insight as often as we do on the eye test, or as we eye testers do? We got one more after this. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, Vincent, we love hearing from you, and we're so
we
grateful.
Feel honored as well. So
yeah, we do. So trust us. Yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot.
Thank you. All right, next question. Alex Cameron, both give us your thoughts on the Canadiens game tonight at the end, please. I can't. Pierre doesn't do predictions. I'll do a prediction. 3-2 Canadiens.
Okay.
Like
all I want to say is I hope tomorrow when we do the show that, and this is nothing against the people in Columbus, because we're tight with Waddell and we're tight with Stu, with Dean Evison. We're really tight with those guys. So I hope we're talking about the Canadiens playing in the playoffs against Washington.
Yeah,
I can't. I'm not going to do predictions.
I just want to be in Montreal during the playoffs. This is nothing like it. There just isn't. That's it. That's it. And I'm lucky to say I've been able to do that. So for anyone who hasn't, I highly suggest it if you get the chance. All right. Thank you so much to the legendary Scotty Bowman for joining us here at iTest. What a great interview as always. And we look forward to the next time we have him on. Thanks to our wonderful crew up in Montreal, working the boards for the Sick Podcast Network. Thanks to you, the viewers watching, and for your questions, and you, the listeners, as well. And thanks to our wonderful sponsors, TCS and Betway. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the iTest on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the iTest with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.